You grabbed the program in January.
Didn't have any clients. I hadn't actually done the job yet. I was just like, oh, I'm brand new. And no one cared. They were just like, oh, awesome. Can I take your details?
And then how long was it before you got your first client after that? All right, so I'm here with Alexis, and Alexis is one of our students with the Brilliant Bookkeeper program. And I thought usually on the Money Shop show, I typically am like interviewing people that are in the personal finance space, some friends that I've had over the years that have blogs or businesses or whatever. But we thought it'd be really cool to start bringing on our own students, which, for people that don't know, we have multiple programs. We've got the Brilliant Bookkeeper program, obviously. We have Proofreading Launchpad. We also have the Facebook Side Hustle course. And our goal and our mission as a company at Stellar Brands now, we've just recently rebranded. Did you know that, Alexis, that we just recently rebranded?
No, I didn't actually.
Okay.
I'm a bad student.
So our goal at Stellar Brands, because we've kind of acquired all these different brands, is really just to we help create and scale entrepreneurs. Like, that's our mission. And so Alexis is a perfect example of somebody to come on here that jumped into our program and has had a lot of success and has a really bright future. So I'm just going to start there. Alexis, can you just tell us what you were doing prior to Brilliant Bookkeeper, and then maybe go into like why you decided to join the Brilliant Bookkeeper program?
Yeah, sure. So immediately prior to joining the program, I was just mumming, really. I was just, I had been working and I'd had a baby, and I managed to stick it out working from home for like a year until she was a year old. And then it just got harder and harder trying to work from home with this baby on the move.
Yeah.
And she was my third, so I have three of them. So I kind of ended up having to just give it up. And I took some time trying to think about different things that I could do. Like, I knew working from home was basically the only real option. And then it was like, but it just needed to be something that worked around the kids. And I come from a line working in finance. I've pretty much worked in finance since I graduated university a long time ago. I won't tell you how long. It's embarrassing.
Keep it a secret. It's not a big deal.
It was a long time. It was a long time ago. So I've worked in and out, but as you can tell, I'm English. So I moved to the States about 7 years ago. So it took a while to get like a work permit. And then I've just been kind of floundering about trying to find something to do.
Right. You didn't just do like a UK to US move. Like, you went really far. You're on the West Coast.
Yeah.
Basically on the ocean. So why did you move that far?
It was just my husband's work. So it was even weirder than that, but we did UK to Germany. We were in Germany for 2.5 years. And then from Germany, we moved to California when my middle child was 3 months old. So we planned all of that while I was pregnant.
That's crazy. I'm curious because I was telling you before we started recording, I just went to Monterey, California, which is kind of south of you and right on the coast. And one thing that stuck out to me was the prices of everything. Like, just going to the grocery store and getting gas and stuff. How does that compare to the UK or even Germany? I'm just kind of curious.
It's wild. I remember like we first got here and went to like Trader Joe's, and I was just trying to buy some like bell peppers, and I'd been buying, like a pack from Germany, super cheap, like a whole pack was maybe like 99 cents, and coming here and it was like $1.89 for one pepper, and I was just like, is this like a mistake? And I must have gone to like 4 other shops before I was like, oh no, that's just the price of a pepper. I just couldn't. Like, it took a long time to get my head around it. And then it's just, you kind of just get used to it in the end. Like, numbers, it just feels a lot like Monopoly money, to be honest, when you see the prices of things. It's just like, meh. I do like going home, though, because I can just throw everything in the like shopping cart, and I'm just like, I don't care. I can care.
Imagine. I made the mistake when we went on vacation. I went to Whole Foods, and it was like, I think I got 3 bags. It was like 3, maybe 4 bags of groceries, and it was like $170. And I was like, I don't understand how people live here. Like, it's beautiful. I understand why people live here, because it's like the best weather and it's amazing. And I like the people a lot. But yeah, it was crazy. But our gas prices, because UK gas prices or petrol prices, they're pretty high, aren't they?
They are. Yeah. It's been a while since I've bought petrol in the UK. Yeah. So they are. Yeah. Say the UK petrol prices are probably still a little bit higher than here.
Okay.
But obviously we're not driving as far because
Yeah.
it's a bit smaller.
Yeah. Okay. So it's probably
um,
still more expensive
yeah,
in
but then things
California.
like our car insurance and our cars are cheaper.
Yeah, I
So
can see
it
that.
kind of like, yeah, well, everything's cheaper really, like housing. Um,
That was another shocker. I looked up the value of the Airbnb we stayed in, and I was like, my
mm,
goodness, the price of it doubled between like during COVID. Basically, they did like a renovation on it, and it was, I think
yeah,
that house cost 2.2 million or something like that, and it wasn't like a huge house. And I was like, this is kind of crazy. Um,
yeah. I remember when
so
we were looking at houses when we were still living in Germany and people were like, oh, are you going to buy one? And we're just like, no.
yeah,
And then
right.
it's like looking at these like, multi-million dollar houses online and they're just filled with IKEA furniture because it's just a normal house
Yeah,
here. But it's like, it's just
way
not
more
what you
expensive.
think of when you think of like $1 million home. You think of like, ooh, fancy.
Yeah, yeah. So that's a little surprising, but I will say because I've been talking about the negatives of California. I had another guest on early in the Money Shop he's in San Diego, so we just talked about like how bad California is all the time. What do you like about it?
Um, there's lots of opportunity, I think. There's lots that you can do. The weather is awesome for most of the year. I mean, I live in the mountains, so we do get like our own little situations like
Yeah,
wildfires and flooding, strangely, because it's technically where I am is classed as a rainforest. So because I'm right in the redwoods.
okay.
Um,
Oh, that's beautiful.
so that can be interesting to navigate. But yeah, generally, like, the weather's good. And as much as everything's expensive, there's so much that you can do for free, like to
Yeah,
entertain the children. We don't spend money on like day trips and things like that because you just go outside and you just do
right.
things. You go to, parks, the library system. I know that's a really weird one to get excited about, but I'm a complete nerd. So
Yeah, me too.
the
Me
libraries are
too.
awesome.
Yeah. By the way, you're doing great. This is your first podcast. I don't know if I said that earlier. You're doing great. Everything's good. Um, so from here, I want to talk about, actually, I did want to ask one more question. Do you stay outside a lot more in California? Like, are you outdoors way more than you were in the UK?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
That was a very succinct answer, but yes, definitely. I think. I mean, like you do have that thing when you do get the heat waves. Sometimes it is too hot as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
But generally, yeah, you're kind of outside a lot more.
Yeah, I could see that. That would be, I think, the biggest draw. And I feel like that's what I thought was interesting is like there was the house we stayed at, there was a ton of like patio space. And I think you could almost count that as like square footage of the house almost
Yeah,
because it seemed like we were outside way more than we were inside.
yeah. Like
Is it the same for
we've
you?
just had our deck done this year, and it's
Ooh,
like the whole length of the house and everything. But we also have 9.5 acres to play with. So,
you have 9.5 acres? Wow, that is amazing.
so yeah, we're outside a lot.
That's cool. That's very cool. All right, so let's talk about your transition into Brilliant Bookkeeper. You were in finance. What were you doing in finance before?
Um, I did quite a few things because obviously I started in finance right after graduation. So I kind of did the whole grad scheme thing, started as an analyst at a wealth management company, moved into selling bonds, and then
Fun
as a
stuff.
like, and people used to laugh, they used to call me the bond girl. Um, which I enjoyed. And then doing like research and stuff in like fixed income and all of that. And then gradually kind of I settled into financial compliance and regulation. So money laundering, stopping it, not doing it.
Oh, okay. You weren't doing a lot. Okay.
I was
Yeah,
not
you were
doing the
stopping
money
it.
laundering. I was saving the world in my own little way.
Yeah.
Um, sort of that kind of thing, making sure people are following all the rules and stuff and helping firms with that. So that was kind of where I landed for the most part of my career. Um, yeah, so it's a bit
So
different.
is that fun? Is that work fun?
I enjoy it, but most people think of it as the boring stuff. But I quite like it. It's with compliance, you get to be really involved in every aspect of the business, and everyone has to listen to you. Like even the CEO has to basically run things by you and do what you say, which is
Okay.
kind of nice.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, so I
Was
find it really interesting.
Did you find that you were always kind of like a numbers person, like in high school and like just growing up? Did they call it high
Yeah,
school in the UK or is it grade school? I don't know what the
yeah,
equivalent
we do
is.
high school. Yeah,
Okay, cool.
yeah. I use numbers. I mean, my degree is maths and statistics, so
Okay, so you're
pretty
good.
numbers.
Yeah, you're good at numbers.
Told you I was a
Yeah,
nerd.
I feel like that takes it. It's very interesting because obviously the people that we have coming to the Brilliant Bookkeeper program are typically like, I would say, like number people, obviously, but kind of like type A-ish also. Do you kind of classify yourself as type A?
Yeah, I think, yeah, probably.
But
I like
you're,
to try and pretend I'm not, but I am.
yeah, but are you also like, do you think you're more introverted or extroverted?
I am an extroverted introvert.
Okay.
So
Okay.
like I can do the whole extrovert thing, like I can go out and speak to people, and like people that met me out and about would describe me as extroverted, but I am more of an introvert, really, if that makes
Okay.
sense.
Yeah, I
I
think it
get
does. I'm an introvert that I can kind of like turn on the extroversion when I need to, but it's like really tiring. Like I just
yeah,
went to a conference thing in Dallas earlier this week, and it was like I had to do this session all day long with all these different entrepreneurs, and all I wanted to do was like go back to my hotel room and just sit for hours after that. So
yeah, just in a dark room, just like oh.
just yeah, yeah, it's hard. It's like I feel like I can like be charismatic and like do all that kind of stuff when I need to, but then when it's time to turn it off, I'm like I don't want to talk to anybody. But so how did you find Brilliant Bookkeeper?
Honestly, I think it was just a Facebook ad that just pinged up on my screen, and I was just like, I'd probably because I'd seen a couple of other programs, read like the freebie books and what
Yeah.
have you, because I was just like, that's something I could probably do. And then your one came up, and I was like, oh,
Yeah.
so, yeah,
So I'm always curious because I mean, I haven't bought a course in a while. I've been doing this for I've been working online for 10 years now. But in the beginning, I would do stuff like that where I would buy programs and participate in them. What did, when you saw the ad come across, because I'm always curious about like the customer journey, did you immediately think like, oh, this is probably a scam? Or were you like, oh, this is really interesting? Like what made you actually click on it and go through and go through the whole process?
I was in that phase where I was looking for the next
Mm,
thing to do. So like, and I've done courses and programs and things in the past. So it was one that I was like, okay, that's interesting. Obviously my first thing with everything is it's probably a scam.
right. Yeah.
But it was Kristen, like seeing her, I was just like, and I could look her up on LinkedIn, and I was like, oh, she's an actual CPA, like she's actually doing this and stuff. Whereas like other courses I've seen, there's a lot of personality. Not saying
Mm-hmm.
she has a lovely personality, but I mean there's a lot of personality and not a lot of substance, whereas she felt very knowledgeable and like she was actually talking from genuine experience. Not that with a lot of programs you find that it's people that have done it a couple of times, but they make a lot more money from the program than they
Right.
do from the actual business that they're trying to tell you that you need to do.
Yes. Yeah, that is a problem. It's one of the things that we have to fight in the online industry, unfortunately. I mean, because you see that a lot where people will like take a program and then basically just turn around and start selling that same version of a program, but it's them selling it. And I think that was one of the things that I think has worked really well for us. We've gone out and we've found people that are like truly practitioners. Like they are doing like Krista Metter, who we're talking about right now. We'll talk about her a little bit more. She's the instructor for Brilliant Bookkeeper. And I mean, basically I found her through the accounting firm that I use for my company. She used to work at that firm. And when we were talking about like, who are we going to have as the instructor of this program? She was mentioned to us and we jumped on a call with her, and she's just like, she's so great. Kristen is like the best. So
Yes,
it was
we love
just,
her.
yeah, she's great. And and she's like, she's doing this work every single day. She has her own firm, Grady and Accounting. She works primarily with online business owners, and it was just a great fit. And I felt like she does have that. What we try to look for in instructors is somebody that knows how to actually do the work, that actually does the work, but also has like a really great personality. And I think, I don't know, maybe tell me if you agree or not, but I felt like she actually wasn't very comfortable with like filming and all of that stuff. Like that was kind of a new thing for her. But I felt like the way that she did our free training and the way that she did the course program, like you can see that she is like not just an actor or something like that. So like, did you notice that as you were kind of going
Yeah.
through
Yeah. I mean,
everything?
I noticed it with everything. Like it literally took me 5 minutes to realize, like, of research to realize that she was legit. Like when I
Yeah.
was looking into the course and things, and I honestly, like, I was looking into this course while I was sat at a cheer competition in LA, watching my children perform, and it came up, and it took 2-3 minutes to research her and be like, oh no, she's legitimate. She's giving really good. she's so knowledgeable on accounting and what she's doing, whereas like the other things that I'd looked into, it was literally like, just take the pro advisor certificate and then just do a profile and you'll be fine, you'll make loads of money. I'm like, okay, but how do I bookkeep, and things like that. And she's great, and she's so nurturing as well. She's a wonderful teacher. She's just like, you can ask her questions about both sides of it. You can ask her those questions about running a business and getting clients and things like that. But you can also be like, oh, I've just found this in my client's books. What on earth do I do? And she knows there's nothing she hasn't come across.
No, she's super knowledgeable. She's great. And she really does. I mean, we all care obviously about our student success, but I feel like she cares about it sometimes the most. Like she every time we have a student win, like we have our own internal Slack channel, she's like so pumped for everybody. And I remember when your story came across, and I want to get into that in a second, but I know that you had been working really hard, and then you landed your first client and started doing really well. She was like super excited, and we were too, because it's cool to see like when somebody actually comes into the program, because a lot of people will come into the program and we fight this as hard as we can, but they'll come to the program and then maybe like wait a really long time to actually go through the course material, or don't interact in the community very much. And you were like very much in the community, and I feel like you're one of the strongest voices in the community. And I've always told people like that is the number one key to success with really anything you do, but like especially with these online programs, like you have to participate in it. If you do that, and if you just show up enough, then eventually good things happen for you, which is what happened for you. So can you kind of tell me, just walk me through the journey? I think you took the program in January of this year.
Yeah. So I signed up like literally like the end of the month of January at a cheer competition. I'm there like on mobile, signing, going, what have I done? I've just, and anyone that's in the world of competitive cheer can imagine how much I was already spending that weekend.
Oh my goodness.
An all-star cheer comp in LA. And then I'm just like, we'll just do this course too. We'll throw that into the bill. And then literally I think that was the weekend, and we drove home, and I started on the Monday. Like stuff was coming into my inbox, and I just started it. I treated it as if it was a job. I wasn't working at the time, so I was privileged in that way. Like I had time, but I have 3 kids that are going, and they vary from 2 to 11. So, there's a lot going on. Now 2 of them are doing all-star cheer, so that's awesome.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Did you know? I feel like I told you this on a coaching call once. My wife was a cheerleader. Actually, I met my wife in high school, and she was like doing the cheer competitions. Her parents were like all in. It is a super intense sport. I mean, it is like there is a lot going on. So, like, do your kids? Are they really into it, and you're going to stuff all the time still?
Yeah, so my oldest is on 2 teams now this season. So this is the season she's gone all in. It's her first season doing elite. So she's on a senior elite team, and then she's also on a junior prep team as well. So she's on 2 teams, and then my middle child she did it a few seasons ago, and then she took 2 seasons off, and she's gone back as well after seeing her sister doing it. So she's gone back. She's only 7, so she's on like a mini novice team. So she's quite little. So they only do, I think, like 3 competitions this season, and then a couple of performances. But my oldest Poppy, she's in about 7 competitions, I think.
Oh,
and some of the competitions she competes at twice. Yeah.
How's their tumbling? Is there time? I know like a little bit about tumbling. Does one of your children have a back tuck? That's like as far as I can.
No, not yet.
Okay.
No, their tumbling's not their strongest. The younger one's still working on her. I think she's working on her back walkover or her front walkover, or both of them. It's a lot of walking over
I'm
things.
have to ask my wife what that is after.
I have no idea. I'm the least sporty person you can imagine. So this is all like new territory for me. And then my oldest, she's a flyer. So she's the one that gets thrown up in the air. And now she's on a senior team. It's high.
Do you get nervous when you watch them do the cheer competitions?
Yeah. It's especially this season now that she's on the senior team, because they do the full extension. So that's like full arm up. And then the kids lifting her are also a lot taller now as well. So she's a good, like, I don't know, 10 foot up in the air. So by the time she gets thrown, it's even higher. And it's just like, yeah.
It looks terrifying. Every time I saw my wife do it, I was like, that is not, I mean, and what's crazy about it, I don't think people realize the amount of energy it takes to do one of those routines. Like maybe some people have seen Cheer, the thing on Netflix, but like I remember like you would see all the girls go and they would start, and then by the time they were done, they would all just be like hands on their knees, like just like exhausted. Like, and it's not that long, right? How long are the routines?
It varies like on their level, but it's the longest is only I think 2 minutes or maybe 2 minutes 30. It's not a lot.
Yeah, but
It,
it's like it's full blast though.
it is,
As
and
soon as they
then
start.
they're in like warm-ups for a good like hour or two before that as well, like going over it, practicing it, stretching, obviously warming up. So it's
Right.
like, yeah, and they come off and it's like on Poppy's team we have a few that have a tendency to have a little puke either before, during, or after competition because they work so hard. It's like, and there's so much for them to keep in their heads as well, you know, because they're tumbling, they're dancing, they are doing stunts, and they're doing, you know, lifting, and there's girls lifting girls. They do single man stunts. It's just one girl lifting a
Oh
whole
wow.
other human who's in the air doing positions and stretches and things. And it's just
It's crazy. It's crazy. So you purchased Brilliant Bookkeeper at that competition, and
yeah.
did you tell your family about it, like in the car home or something,
No,
or did you just no?
no. I've bought a few programs over the years.
Okay. So you were
So
like,
I
I'm gonna
just
keep
kind
this.
of, I just did it with my, it was literally, I think probably the last bits of money I had left over from when I'd been working and I'd been putting money aside to stop working. And it was kind of like the last bits that I had. So I just kept kind of quiet about it and just
How
did
long
it.
does it? How long was it before you told them what you were doing?
Not long. I don't know. I just kind of was doing it, and they're like, "Oh, what are you up to?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm just doing this bookkeeping course." I don't think I ever said like how much I paid or anything.
Right.
It's just like, it's fine now. I can write it off. So
Yeah, exactly. Well, and that's what I want to kind of transition to that. So, you grabbed the program in January, started going through the material. So, what was that next few month period like? What did that look like?
So I just went at it like a crazy woman. I started on the Monday just going through the modules. I went to every single call that was available. So there was like special calls for like new joiners, and then there was the regular coaching calls as well. So I did all of them. I just did it all. And sometimes there were like children climbing over me
Yeah.
and all sorts, but I just went to everything I could go to, and I just went through the program, and then I did the things. This is where sometimes like you don't with programs. You're like,
Right.
yeah, I'll do that. You know, yeah, I've got to set up a website. Yeah, I'll do that. And then you go back to the textbook kind of bits. But this time I didn't. If Kristen told me today was the day that we were setting up our Upwork profile, then I set up the Upwork profile, and the same with my website. And she said, you need to get your EIN number. And I did it on that as I was doing it. So I literally just did it.
Yeah.
It sounds so simple, but
it does, but it's honestly from our side of the fence, it is the like most frustrating thing sometimes, because like you'll have some people that jump into the program, like I said, they'll wait a long time to take it, especially if they're already an accountant and they're like in tax season, like they will wait forever until tax season is over, which makes sense. But then like some people have all the potential and they come to the coaching calls, they do all that stuff, and then they just like freeze up when it comes time to take action. And I think it's fear. Like, I think it's just them being scared of like, I don't know, trying to get a client hearing a no or something like that. Like, did you run into any of those fears as you were doing it?
yeah, I think I got especially like theory around the parts where we were talking about the networking and getting out, because all I was thinking is because I didn't have any childcare, you didn't really have any money left to like, you know, it's a lot to be like, okay, you need to find like a sitter and go to this in-person thing and basically pay for a sitter or pay for something and go. So I was like definitely like really pushing back. But you think honestly, I was just nervous. But in the end, like weirdly, something came up, like a mixer came up, and because it was right then, it was that night. And I was just like, oh, I can actually attend that. And it's now. And I didn't even have business cards because I didn't have time to have them printed and get to me. I tried to look for a local printer and there was nothing, because 2024, it's just like, there was just nothing. So I went with like, I did one on my phone as like a little virtual business card and just rocked up at this Chamber of Commerce event. And then once I did one, I was like, oh, okay, it's not so bad. Like I've just been stressing and winding Kristen up for no real reason. But yeah,
You
so
did
it
it
kind
though.
of, but I did it. I got there, and yeah, and I think the key for me was bookkeeping. It just felt so legitimate. It didn't feel like a fad or an online trend or something that if I told people I was doing it, they'd be like, what are you doing? It just felt like something that was like a natural thing. So I didn't feel any imposter syndrome around it. I didn't feel any like embarrassment that I was or trying out another new gimmick or anything like that. It was like a legitimate business that everyone has heard of that fitted with my background. So it took a lot of that fear away, that it just felt so natural a thing for me to do that I didn't
Yeah.
feel embarrassed when I was telling people about it.
Well, that's great.
Um,
Yeah. I mean, I think that imposter syndrome obviously is like one of the biggest fears for people that are just starting out in their new business. I had it when I started. Um, but I think the fact that you just went out and did it, and I'll tell you, like this last event that I went to, I didn't have business cards either. So you're not alone there, you know? But one thing you do find, and I don't know if you found this yet or if it's something that will come, but like a lot of times like that stuff that people think is really important, like the business cards, like the website, like all that stuff, it doesn't really matter that much, but it's something that a lot of people that are new really like feel like I've got to have this stuff to seem legitimate. So like, did you feel like that at all? It sounded like you did a little bit with the business cards, but like,
a little
when
bit,
did you get
yeah.
over that?
I mean, well, I kind of did get over it and I kind of didn't. Like, so I had to go to this meeting, but instead of thinking I don't have a website or anything like that, I just did that as my deadline. So I just made a website.
Right.
And I updated my LinkedIn because I had to, because I was going to an event. So I didn't get over it. I just fixed it.
You just did it. Right.
I just
Yeah.
did it. But so like, no, my website's rubbish, but it took me maybe an hour and I haven't changed it. I just kept it because it's fine. It does
Yeah.
the job. It was just there so that if somebody got my information and wanted to look me up, they had somewhere to look me up and they could see I was legitimate. And the same
Yeah.
on my LinkedIn. Like I did a company page and I updated my personal. But again, like I spent maybe half an hour or something on it. I was just gave myself the deadline. I have to have it up by the time I leave the house to go to this meeting, because if I give someone my business card, it's going to take them to a website. So there has to be a website.
Yeah.
And I just kind of didn't worry about it.
Yeah. No, that's great. Did you have any like web development experience or anything like that when you created your website?
Not really. I mean, I've played around on
Yeah.
Squarespace and stuff, but it's all pretty point and click these
They are,
days.
yeah. I think a lot of people, when they think about a website, like they think that you have to know how to code everything and all that.
Oh
It's like,
God,
it's
no.
really not very difficult at all.
No, I just dropped
Most
in
of
a
the thing,
picture and typed.
yeah,
If you can
yeah,
write
they're
a Word
mostly drag and drop.
document, you can make a website.
Yeah, yeah, and actually, ChatGPT. I don't know if people know this, but it can help you make a website too. But even with like the Squarespace and stuff like that, it's so easy. So that's awesome. So how did that first event go?
It was really good. Like I met people, I spoke to people, and I spoke to people I'm still in touch with now. But so far, it hasn't yielded me any clients yet. But like one of the people I met is a financial advisor, and we've had a call since then. So he's always looking for someone to refer people to. So I'm on his list now, and I got to chat to other businesses. But I don't know if I could surprised is the right word, but I turned up like I didn't have any clients. I hadn't actually done the job yet. I was just like, oh, I'm brand new. I don't have business cards. I've just started my business. And no one cared. Everyone was so nice. They were just like,
Yep.
oh, awesome. We're always needing bookkeepers. That's amazing. Can I take your details? And I'm like, no one asked to see like certificates or ask
Hmm.
me anything. They were just like, oh, awesome. I hate doing that. Like,
Yeah,
we need someone to
yeah,
do it. No, yeah, it was so strange. Like I was expecting, the third degree, like a job interview, but yeah, everyone was just so supportive, and no one really cared about. And I guess that's it. You think that everyone has all these ideas, but when you're hiring another business or a freelancer and stuff, if it doesn't work out, you just let them go.
right.
It's like,
Yeah, yeah,
what's the worst that can happen if you hire a bookkeeper and it's not quite the right fit? Nothing really. You
yeah.
just get a new one.
Well, I
So
think that attitude is why you've been like very successful in the program, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But I think that people, when they think about business, I think people do feel that way, where it's like I've got to have all these certificates, and I've got to have all these case studies, and I've got to have all this stuff. And most of business is done just by meeting people, and that's kind of it, just building relationships with people. And then like bookkeeping, what I love about I love having that program in our roster because it's such a it like sells itself in a way where it could be exactly like what you said. People know what bookkeeping is. It's one of the first things I hired for, because most business owners are really good at their business. Like they know how to sell their product, or they know how to like manage their client relationships. But almost no business owner actually wants to look at the numbers, right? And you've probably found that as you've gone through this. Like,
Yes.
it's scary, and you don't want to mess anything up. I think that's the other thing that comes up for a lot of business owners, where it's like you feel like, man, if I screw these numbers up, then I'm going to pay way more in taxes than I should, or the IRS is going to come after me, or whatever. So it's just one of those great things that it's just a great service that you can provide. Um, so you went to that, you kind of ripped the Band-Aid off, and then how long was it before you got your first client after that? And can you just tell people like what happened? Like there's a period from like January to July. Can you just talk about like what happened in that period?
Yeah. So yeah, I started working through the course in February. That networking event was in March, and it coincided with when we went through the Upwork kind of module in the course as well. So I was all signed up on Upwork. We had an awesome coaching call with that, where we were actually like doing it as we were on the call, and like we were able to like see other people's profiles and steal the good bits. I'm a big fan of copy and paste. If it's working for someone, you know, it's probably going to work for you too.
Yep.
You just need to add a bit of personality to it for your own personality. But yeah, if that's a working thing, go with it, make it work for you. So we did that. And then I had a client, he's my client now, a potential client reach out to me in April, I think it was, based on my Upwork profile. So I'd kind of applied for a couple of bits and pieces, but then forgot about it and was still working through the course. But then somebody reached out to me and was like, oh, I just need this little cleanup work on Zero. Can you do that? And then it took a while to get everything going, because we had like spring break, birthdays, cheer competitions, and things like that. And I think he was away as well. So we finally connected, and I started working with him in May. So that was my first kind of invoice, went out for work done in May, and it was about, my first one was about 800. So it was quite a nice, like from nothing to 800. Yeah. So, and that obviously cleared out everything I'd spent already. So I was now, you know, I broke even instantly.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a good, so that was it. And so I started with that. It was just supposed to be a kind of quick cleanup operation, going through the 2023 books and getting them all ready. They already had an extension. They hadn't done the filing.
That sounds right, because I've done it many times.
So, and that was it. And then it was, you know, if we get along, we'll maybe do some other work and things like that. So that took me up to there. And by June, he was like, I like you. I like what you do. So we moved on to a higher contract to do more work, more regular work. So that was took me up to about 2.5 months. Awesome. And then by July came around, I was doing that company, and I had his other company I was working with as well. So I was working for 2 of his businesses. That's cool. And this is one of the reasons I like California, because this is Silicon Valley startups.
Yeah, absolutely.
So everybody is connected to everybody. Everybody has more than one business. And generally speaking, so far from my experience, people are happy to pay for you to do what they need you to do. You're not haggling over prices and things like that. They're just like, this is what we need, and this is what it costs. And they're like, okay.
Yeah. I mean, that's been my experience too in business. Like, once somebody finds out that you're solid, and they're like, okay, you can do the thing you said, then they typically will either give you more opportunities, like it sounded like here, or they'll try to find other people to work with you as well. And it's one of those things where it's like, once you get started with client acquisition, it becomes so much easier. I think so many people just are so afraid to like actually jump in and do it. But once you do, you kind of find that like you can just not effortlessly grow, because like you'll never stop client acquisition in your business. Things will be hard, but it does become a lot easier, and those opportunities come up, and then it just becomes like you're just helping them solve their problems, and that you can make great money doing that. So you did that with him. And then you actually was it July that you got to the 5K club?
Yeah, July I got to 5K.
It's
Yep.
awesome.
So I did try the approach of getting him to introduce me to other people, but he didn't really want to share me. So he just gave
Yeah.
me more money instead.
Hey, and that's fine too. You do find that, especially in like if they've got competitors or something like that, like that they're worried about, like especially in bookkeeping, they can be worried about like you're going to share information with their competitors about how their business is doing and all of that. But you never know. I bet I would be willing to bet that you will get another client from that person that
Yeah,
you
and
introduce.
yeah, and it worked out that I actually like what he was wanting me to do. I actually said no, that's too much. I'm not doing all of that. So I was actually
Oh
able to.
wow.
I was actually able to be like, no, I don't, because I don't want a job. This is why I
Right.
started a business. So yeah, so we kind of compromised, and between the two businesses, we're in at like 5.5, just under a month, and then I became completely indispensable because we had to go through an IRS audit.
I remember when you posted about that in the community, I was like, oh my. Like,
Yeah, we're having a great time with that because his actual CPA has moved on to doing other things. So he was filing his taxes for the year, but he's moved into more of a CFO space now, and he's like, I don't have time to do this. I was not the bookkeeper for the year in question, and obviously I am a brand new bookkeeper as well. And now, I'm just helping him with an IRS audit, fully stuck in.
how is that one, how is that going, and how did you kind of manage that, like not knowing anything about an IRS audit? I'm guessing, like, how have you been able to just do that?
You just figure these things out. I mean, I know a little bit more than he knows, so, and I have and he's paying me for the time to figure it out, so that's what I do. And I mean, that's kind of my approach to everything, and that's why me and this client get on so well as well. He's an entrepreneur. He's like, well, there's loads of things I don't know about. He said, I trust that you can figure it out, and I'm like, yep.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how it works, because that's how he does his business. He figures out the things he needs to figure out.
Yeah.
So yeah, we managed to work through it. We just kind of, reached out to Kristen and other people in the group as well for their experience. I found him a new CPA
Oh, and awesome.
that he gets on really well with as well. So that's been really good as well. It was surprisingly hard to find a CPA.
Yeah. Yeah. It can
Partly
be.
because we were looking at like September time for this urgent IRS like information request deadline, right at the extension deadline for tax season, which is when everybody actually files their taxes. So
Right.
everyone was just like, no, we will not speak to you until after October 15th. I don't even want to have a conversation with you.
Yes, that's how accountants are.
I'm like,
Typically, like, that's been
okay,
my experience.
we have money. We have money. But no, but we got it sorted, and this guy's actually a really good fit. And having worked with my client for a while, I know who would be a good fit. And like, we did meet another person, and I was like, no, that's not going to work.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
It's, I mean, that's something that happens a lot. And we tell people that all the time. Like, when you first start out, and that's actually really cool that you did that, because when you first start out, it is so easy to like just take any work that you can possibly get. But that's not always the best, because sometimes some clients are just like not good clients. And so like, it's nice when you can be able to say no, and have like the foresight to do that. Cause I think sometimes like a bad client can make your life not fun at all. So I
yeah.
think that was great that you did that. Um, can you talk a little bit about, because I know that people that come into Brilliant Bookkeeper or are even thinking about becoming a bookkeeper in general, like they think that you have to be a CPA to be a bookkeeper, or they think that you need that experience. So can you talk a little bit about that? Like maybe a little bit about just the difference in that?
Yeah, so my client had a CPA and now does again, thanks to me. I found him one. It's very different. It's like they are into all the rules and years and years of schooling and all sorts of things, and they're kind of on the hook. Whereas as the bookkeeper, you're just kind of sorting things out, making it easy to be understood. You're helping the CPA do the things that, I mean, in this area, the CPAs that I've been speaking to, they're on like 350 an hour. They're not messing around in Xero categorizing transactions. No one is paying $350 an hour for someone to do that. So you're there kind of to do all that for them. But how I do it as well is I can explain things that the CPA says to my client in a way that he understands, because he's petrified of finance. This is a brilliant,
Oh, yeah.
brilliant man who has been an entrepreneur for 30 years. Brilliant
Yeah.
man, you know, And like, I can see him tense up when the CPA talks to him. So I can put it into words that he can understand and just be like, no, it just means this, when he's talking about the retained earnings and things. So I do have a bit of a finance background. I've never produced accounts before, but I have definitely analysed plenty of them. So I can put it into those words. It's kind of like being a bridge, but it's also, the CPA is providing information for the IRS and the taxes and things like that, whereas I'm providing information for my client to see how his business is running. Now, a really good CPA would be doing that too. But again, they're charging an awful lot for that service. A lot of like my client only really speaks to a CPA at tax season. And even then he will just palm him off on me and just be like, you tell Alexis what you need and she'll get that for you. He just doesn't want to speak to him. He's petrified of him.
I think a lot of people I think they don't realize that about CPAs. Like, CPAs typically are very specific in what they want to do and what they don't want to do. And so some of them will just do tax only. Some of them will do advisory in tax where they're meeting with their clients throughout the year. Some of them don't provide bookkeeping services at all. And actually some of them don't really know how to. And a lot of CPAs will hire bookkeepers to do that portion of the business for them, because it's like they kind of go hand in hand. Like, the business owner typically wants somebody to do bookkeeping and accounting, but that's not the way it usually actually works. Usually you've got somebody that's handling the actual taxes, and then you have somebody that's doing the bookkeeping work for their firm or a contract or something like that. So what's cool about being a bookkeeper is that you can really like either build it yourself or you can join an existing accountant. There's a lot of different options that I think a lot of people don't really realize. So I'm curious though, like I got some notes about just where you are now and all that. How do you feel like your life has changed since you decided to jump into Brilliant Bookkeeper?
It sounds kind of corny, but it's kind of changed everything, because, like, I'd had a career, I'd done all of that, and I'd stopped, and I'd had a job since then, but it wasn't something, I don't know, I'm not saying it wasn't something I was proud of, but it was a job. It wasn't like, I don't know, it wasn't me. And then, then I'd gone back to, because I had my third child, and I'd gone back to being a mom, which is obviously great. But I'd always, had a career and things like that. So like I was a bit down in the dumps, is feeling a bit like lost and directionless. And, obviously I love being a mom and having my kids and being able to do things with them. But that's why this has changed things so much, is because I'm still able to do those things. But I'm also able, when people ask me what I do, I will say, well, I'm a small business owner and I run a bookkeeping firm, and, I do this and that. And I don't know, it's given me a bit of myself back.
That's cool.
And obviously, there's the money as well. I'm now earning an income, which obviously all goes to cheer. So I don't get any of it, but
Yeah. So what are your goals? Like, are you wanting to grow it all, or are you just kind of wanting to stay where you are and like just keep the lifestyle you have?
This is like, weirdly, it's that time of year. This is what I've been thinking about. So like, if for Q4, I've been thinking about what do I want, and then so that I can make my goals for next year of how to get there. And so my current clients have just we've dialed back a little bit now that we've got through the hardest part of the audit and everything like that. So I'm currently sitting at about 3K a month until the end of the year is our current contract, which I'm sure will be extended, but and it may ramp back up again a little bit. So it's giving me some time, a bit of breathing space to actually kind of think about what I want to do. And I adore my clients that I have right now, but they weren't actually what I came into this to do. I wanted to work with smaller businesses in that kind of more creative space. So, I mean, he does fit the bill. He is scared of his CPA. But I wanted to be in that space for creatives where they are not looking at their finances, and that they need to be looking and getting them comfortable with it. And that's kind of my passion. Is I want, especially women, I think, who, again, like, a lot of the CPAs are men. A lot of the women are scared of their CPAs. They just think. I had a conversation at a networking event with this lady who's like, oh, I'm scared to even talk to him because he's just going to tell me off about something, and I want to shift that idea of like, that your finances are something to be scared of, and have have people really get familiar with their finances of their business and see all the potential that's just hidden there in the numbers of where they can grow, what they can change, what they can move towards, and actually get people feeling really comfortable with it. That's kind of like my passion. So in a way, I've been kind of glad that it has dialed back a little bit, because it's given me more time now where I can actually get back out and try and get some of these kind of clients that I'm more interested in, I think, as well, that go back to my actual like passion and purpose.
Yeah.
So the plan is I would like to grow, and I've, potentially would hire somebody maybe. And I mean, I would like to grow to be a decent business, and because I think the skills required for bookkeeping, I think that pretty much anyone can do it. So, I have 3 daughters. My oldest is nearly 12. In a few years, I don't see why she couldn't do this instead of getting a job at Starbucks or whatever. She could, join the business and do that for her kind of extra money, and keep her the flexibility that she will need if she continues to cheer all the time.
She probably will.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry to interrupt. You can keep going.
I don't even know where I was going, to be honest.
Okay. See, this is one of those things where the editor can just cut that out. So tell me about the creatives. I'm curious about that. So what kind of businesses are you interested in working with?
I am interested in maybe more like yoga studios and influencers maybe that are doing things online, and they always have a gazillion different things happening, between like maybe courses, retreats, whatever going on, things like that. Artists, anything like that, really. I live in kind of an eclectic community.
You live in a good place for like yoga studios, and
we do. I think we have more yoga studios than we have grocery stores, I think. So things like that, like kind of more like solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, that kind of small but mighty business, I think would be kind of, and especially like I would like to work with more female founders and things as well, get them familiar with their numbers.
That's very cool. Well, I mean, to me, it's very cool to see you go through the program. I love like when you see a student that has so much ahead of them. And I have no doubt that you're going to grow an amazing bookkeeping firm, and you're going to do amazing things for the businesses in your area and beyond. Could you this is last question. So far you have survived the podcast interview.
Oh, I did it.
So what advice would you give to somebody that is maybe not even looking at Brilliant Bookkeeper, but just like wanting to do something and get started? Like, what would you say to them now that you can look back?
I think it's about finding that something that you feel comfortable with, that feels like it's a great fit for you, and then just actually doing it. That's the thing. Right. And I think that's the trick to doing it, is finding that something that feels like it describes you. So like for me, I know a bookkeeper doesn't sound exciting or glamorous or whatever, but it is me. It's kind of like, it's something that when I heard it, I was like, oh yeah, that does like sound like what I wanted to do. That's kind of everything I've done. It makes sense as a next step. And I think that's the key for being able to go for it and do it, because you're not overthinking it so much. Like I didn't really have any doubts as to whether or not I would be able to do the job. I knew I could. I knew just someone needed to show me. I had no fear around that, and I didn't have any fear around telling people that's what I was doing. I didn't feel nervous or embarrassed about it. Yeah. So like if you're a massive reader and that's who you are and you do all those things, like the proofreading course, when you tell people this is what you do, does it make sense? Yeah. And that's going to really encourage you to just do it. And then that's it. You just have to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. Well, again, your story is so amazing. I'm so excited for you. I lied. I do have one more question. Where can people find you if there's like a yoga studio owner in the area that wants to work with you? How can they find you?
You can find me on Instagram at Aurora Business Services. You can also find me on the general World Wide Web. Do we still call it that? I don't know. AuroraBusinessServices.com and LinkedIn as well. You can find me there too.
Okay.
Just reach out.
Alexis, you did great. I'm super excited for you, and thank you so much for jumping on with me.
Thank you for having me. It was fun.